We discovered Donald Trump. He long claimed that he had inherited almost nothing from his father. In fact, he inherited hundreds of millions of dollars from his father, and it was enhanced through tax fraud.
But let's go to both of you with this central question. Why did you take this on? So let's start with you, Susanne, and then I'll ask Russ the same question. Why did you get involved with this?
Well, it started because an editor just asked me if I could look into Donald Trump and his money, and that was back in 2016. I'd been covering Governor Cuomo in Albany. I just arrived at City Hall. I was going to be the bureau chief for the New York Times, covering then Mayor Bill de Blasio. I was super excited about it. I'd been in the seat 3 weeks, and I get a call from the Metro editor, and he says, "Hey, can you just come out for a few weeks? Donald Trump is, just announced that he's running for president." Nobody really thought he was going to be in very long, and I was told, "You'll be back at City Hall in a few months." I never went back. And we started just writing on his finances back then. Very little was known about his finances. There's been this, discussion in New York and the tabloids that he was this billionaire and, all the noise that went around with that. But we really didn't know much about how much he was worth, even in some cases, what he owned. It was a privately held company, and it was sort of just shrouded in mystery and mainly his myth making about it, which was false. So Russ and I started writing on it. We each did, kind of separate stories prior to the election. And then 6 weeks before the election, I went to check my mailbox one Friday afternoon, and I found in my mailbox, it was incredible, a manila envelope addressed to me. It had 3 pages of what looked like Donald Trump's 1995 tax returns. And when I went to the line about how much we assumed he had losses, it looked like he had $1 billion in accumulated losses in 1995. We couldn't believe it. We worked round the clock to try and confirm that. We ended up getting it confirmed from an on-the-record source, accountant that had signed the document. And from there, we kept working, just trying to uncover more information. And we started looking at how much Donald Trump had inherited from his father, Fred Trump. And that story, we just started digging into property records and calling people. And that story that ran in 2018, we discovered Donald Trump, he long claimed that he had inherited almost nothing from his father. In fact, he inherited hundreds of millions of dollars from his father, and it was enhanced through tax fraud. That was the story. You mentioned some Trump family members helped us with this. Mary Trump had given some really important documents that helped us get to that story. And then we just kept digging, and we got it later on. Another source gave us 20 plus years of Donald Trump's personal and corporate tax returns that led to a series of stories in 2020. And there were other stories along the way. So it was really an organic journalism effort that just kind of kept going, and now has ended up with this book.
So this is the heart of Mr. Trump. If there's an Achilles heel for Mr. Trump, it's this book. And so, Russ, let me go to that. I mean, he believes his political power comes from the Celebrity Apprentice, as you guys pointed out in the New York Times Sunday article this weekend, and that it comes from his wealth. He is a genius, multi-billionaire. He's the only person that the Forbes 400 people say tries to boost his record. A lot of people are trying to get themselves off that list. He's trying to get himself higher up on it. And so this strikes right at the heart of him. And so, Russ, why give yourself this agita? Why, you seem like a nice guy and probably have a nice family and everything. Why would you want to be antagonized by him? Because I'm sure he's antagonizing.
Yeah, the world is full of unpleasant people, and we don't pick our subjects usually based on how fun they are. But this one is particularly unique because, as you know, he pops onto the political scene in 2016 with nothing much behind him but years as a television celebrity and this business record that he says shows he's an incredible genius, that he's a multi-billionaire, and that he's promising he can now do the same thing for the country that he had done for his businesses. But this was a very small, privately held family company. To try to do the usual vetting that we and the public would do of a candidate for president was very difficult because those records are not there. Even compared to, say, Mitt Romney, you could look back at the funds he'd been involved with and tell something about that. And most people running for office are government officials who have a
But
long public track record.
Mitt divulged his tax returns, though,
He
right?
did.
I mean,
The first thing.
Really important.
First thing. And Trump went out of his way to hide all that.
Right.
So that to like investigative reporters is just like a magnet. Come to me, right? And everything that we found out just sort of upended another element of his myth of who he was. And when we get to the end of it, we've done sort of 3 large stories over a 5-year period. But there was so much more to tell, and just connecting all that and trying to figure out where it was that he became the person that he was, what it was that American culture sort of enabled him to tell these lies about what he was doing and still be credible. There were changes in the media ecosystem in those years that were a big role. And so it just felt like, as a long narrative exploring sort of an American century in the Trump family, it really had weight and helped us get to understand where we had gotten to.